Madison woke up to the smell of roasted turkey and sweet pumpkin pie, but today the warmth of home felt colder than ever. Her parents, Paul and Linda, had been unusually tense all morning, their voices sharp and quick. Madison felt a knot in her stomach, sensing something was wrong. She tried to make small talk, asking about the preparations for Thanksgiving, but her questions were met with sighs and impatient glances. "Madison, we need to talk," Paul said finally, his voice heavy. Madison's heart sank. She had a feeling this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. They told her to sit down at the kitchen table, where the sunlight barely touched the worn wooden surface. Linda spoke first. "We think it's time you learn to be independent," she said, her tone firm but not unkind. Madison blinked, confused. She had been working hard on her freelance projects, quietly earning some money online, but she had never mentioned it to her parents. They didn't know that she was capable, that she had already started to carve her own path. Paul continued, "We think you should go live in the streets for a while. Experience life without our support. Learn responsibility." The words hit Madison like a punch to the gut. She felt a mix of shock, disbelief, and hurt. How could they say that on Thanksgiving, a day that was supposed to be about family and gratitude? Madison looked down at her hands, trying to steady her shaking fingers. She remembered the small savings she had, the projects she had been nurturing, and the determination that had carried her through countless challenges. But the fear of being alone and exposed to the world outside gnawed at her. She tried to explain. "I'm not unprepared. I've been working, I have money saved, and I know how to take care of myself." Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her panic. But her parents were resolute. They didn't want to hear about her hidden successes, they only saw what they thought was her failure. Feeling tears sting her eyes, Madison realized there was no changing their minds. She gathered her few belongings, a small suitcase, her laptop, a notebook filled with ideas, and a worn-out jacket. Every item felt heavier than it should, carrying the weight of her sudden independence. As she slung the suitcase over her shoulder, she felt a wave of fear, but also a small spark of something else, determination. Walking out of the house, Madison took a deep breath of the crisp November air. The neighborhood looked the same, but everything felt different. She passed familiar houses, feeling like a stranger in a place she had known all her life. Her mind raced with thoughts. Where would she go? How would she survive? Could she really make it on her own? Despite the fear, Madison reminded herself of her own abilities. She had always been resourceful and creative, and she had ideas that could earn her money if she just had the chance. The streets were scary, but they were also full of opportunity for someone willing to take risks. As she walked, she noticed small things she had never paid attention to before, the way the sunlight hit the leaves, the chatter of children playing in yards, the smell of baked goods from nearby bakeries. These small details reminded her that life was still moving forward, and that she could find her place in it. Madison found a small park and sat on a bench, trying to organize her thoughts. She opened her notebook and began jotting down ideas for projects she could start immediately. Even though she was scared, she felt a sense of control returning. Writing things down made the future feel less intimidating. As the day wore on, Madison realized she needed a plan. She thought about reaching out to old friends, looking for temporary work, and using her skills to earn money online. She didn't want to rely on anyone else, but she knew that being smart and strategic was her best chance of success. By evening, Madison found a quiet corner near a small cafe. She watched people come and go, families laughing together, friends chatting. A pang of loneliness hit her, but she pushed it aside, focusing on her goals. She reminded herself that this was temporary, a test of her resilience, and an opportunity to prove herself. The first night alone was the hardest. She curled up with her jacket as a makeshift blanket, feeling the chill of the wind and the reality of her situation. Her stomach growled, and she realized she would have to be resourceful not just with her skills but with basic survival. Fear and uncertainty were constant companions, but Madison also felt a growing determination to not let this situation define her. As she drifted off to sleep, Madison thought about the people who had doubted her, the parents who didn't understand her potential, and the streets that now surrounded her. She made a silent promise to herself: she would rise above this, not just survive but thrive. She would turn this challenge into the greatest opportunity of her life. The spark of hope flickered, growing brighter with each passing moment, as Madison prepared to face the unknown with courage and determination. Madison woke up early, the city's grey light spilling over the empty streets. The first night had been cold and lonely, but she had survived. She wrapped her jacket tighter around herself, holding her small backpack close. The world felt both dangerous and full of possibility. She had to find a way to make the next day better. Walking through the streets, Madison noticed how different life looked outside her home. People hurried past, absorbed in their own worlds. She saw a man, maybe in his 40s, feeding pigeons on the sidewalk, a little girl skipping with a balloon, a woman selling coffee from a cart. These small glimpses of life made her feel connected, even in her solitude. Madison found a small public library and decided to take a seat at one of the tables. The library smelled of old books and polished wood, comforting in a way. She opened her laptop and started checking her freelance accounts, emails, and messages from potential clients. She had some leads waiting, but nothing big yet. Her heart raced with anticipation and worry. She knew she had talent, but she needed someone to believe in her. As she worked, a young man named Ethan noticed her struggling with the laptop cables. He approached cautiously. "Need a hand?" he asked. Madison looked up, startled, then nodded. He helped her untangle the cords and smiled. They struck up a short conversation, and Madison felt a spark of relief at the kindness of a stranger. Ethan shared advice about small freelance gigs and suggested she try some local networking opportunities. His encouragement was small, but it gave Madison a boost. Later, Madison walked through a bustling street market, keeping her eyes open for opportunities. She remembered her skills in digital design and social media management. She passed small shops and cafes, thinking about how she could pitch her services. Her confidence grew a little with each step, though she still felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her. By afternoon, Madison found a quiet bench near a fountain. She opened her notebook and began jotting down ideas for projects she could start immediately. Each idea seemed more promising than the last. She thought about offering design services to small businesses in the area, promoting them online, creating websites, or managing their social media accounts. She realized she didn't need to wait for a big break. She could start small and grow steadily. A few people passed, some smiling, some indifferent. Madison noticed how different people's lives could be and how fragile her own situation was. But instead of fear, she let curiosity guide her. She imagined the kind of life she wanted, one where she was independent and successful, and she decided to chase that vision with everything she had. That evening, Madison returned to a quiet corner near a small park. She found a spot under a tree and rested. She allowed herself a moment to feel the fear, the sadness, and the loneliness, but then she focused on her plan. She knew she couldn't linger on what she had lost, she had to focus on what she could create. She sent messages to some local businesses offering her services, using the few contacts she had. She also started planning a simple online project that could potentially reach more clients. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, each keystroke a step toward independence. The night fell, and Madison found a safe spot to rest. She felt tired, but there was a small flame of hope burning inside her. She whispered to herself that tomorrow would be a better day, that she had the skills and determination to survive and thrive. Despite the challenges, she realized she had already grown stronger in just one day. The streets were harsh, but they were also full of opportunity, and Madison was ready to seize it. Madison woke up early the next morning with a mix of excitement and anxiety. She knew that surviving on the streets was one thing, but truly changing her life required a bigger step. She had a small savings from her freelance work and a business idea she had been nurturing quietly for months. Today, she decided, she would take the risk. She found a quiet corner near a cafe, opened her laptop, and started preparing a proposal for potential clients. Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed, the fear of failure whispering doubts in her mind. Could she really make this work? Was she being too ambitious? Madison reminded herself of all the small wins she had achieved before, even without anyone's recognition. She had taught herself coding, created digital designs, and handled clients independently. Those skills were hers, and they could be her ticket out of this difficult situation. By late morning, she contacted several small businesses, offering her services in website design and social media management. She personalized each message, carefully explaining how she could help them grow. She clicked send and felt her heart race. There was no guarantee anyone would respond, and the thought of rejection made her stomach tighten. To distract herself, Madison walked through the city, brainstorming more ideas for additional revenue streams. She considered online courses, freelance marketplaces, and small contracts. The more she thought, the more she realized the potential around her. She just had to act. A passerby, a woman named Rachel, noticed Madison looking stressed and stopped. "You look like you could use a coffee and some advice," Rachel said, offering a small gesture of kindness. Madison smiled, feeling comforted by the brief connection. Rachel suggested networking events and online platforms where Madison could showcase her skills. Even small interactions like this gave Madison hope that there were people willing to help. By afternoon, Madison had secured a short-term freelance contract, earning her enough to cover food and a safe place to sleep. She celebrated quietly, feeling a surge of pride. This was her first tangible step toward independence and financial security. She realized that risk, though frightening, could also open doors she had never imagined. That evening, Madison found a quiet corner near a park fountain and reviewed her progress. She reflected on how far she had come in just a few days, surviving on her own and taking concrete steps toward her dream. She understood that fear would always be part of the journey, but courage and persistence could push her forward. Before going to sleep, Madison whispered to herself, "I can do this. I will make it." She curled up under her jacket, tired but determined. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in weeks, she felt a real sense of control over her life. The risk had been taken, and now the rest depended on her grit, creativity, and willingness to keep moving forward. The next morning, Madison woke with renewed energy. The small contract she had secured yesterday gave her a sense of accomplishment she had not felt in a long time. She knew it was just the beginning, but it was proof that her efforts were paying off. She opened her laptop, checking messages and preparing to deliver her work with precision and care. Throughout the day, Madison juggled multiple tasks. She worked on a website design, crafted social media posts, and responded to client inquiries. Each completed task brought a small sense of victory, reinforcing her belief in her abilities. She felt a growing confidence, realizing that her skills could indeed support her, even without the backing of her parents. Despite these small wins, challenges arose. Some clients were skeptical, others delayed payments, and technical issues threatened to slow her down. Madison felt frustration and doubt creeping in. But she reminded herself that these obstacles were temporary and part of the journey. Each problem was a lesson, teaching her patience, creativity, and resilience. During a short break, she met a fellow freelancer named Liam at a local coffee shop. Liam shared tips about scaling projects, managing time, and approaching larger clients. His advice was practical, and his encouragement made Madison feel less alone in her pursuit. She realized that connecting with others who understood the freelance world could give her an edge she hadn't considered before. By evening, Madison had completed a major portion of her work, and a small payment was confirmed in her account. She allowed herself a moment of quiet celebration, feeling proud of her progress. Each win, no matter how small, was a step toward the life she envisioned. She began planning for bigger opportunities, thinking about long-term growth rather than just immediate survival. That night, as she rested under a streetlight in a safe corner near a park, Madison reflected on the past few days. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and loneliness, yet she had persevered. The streets that once felt intimidating now seemed like a place of learning and growth. She had discovered that small wins, when accumulated, could lead to significant change. Madison whispered to herself, "I am capable. I am strong. I can handle this." With each word, her confidence grew, and the spark of determination within her burned brighter. She understood that the road ahead would continue to have obstacles, but she was no longer the same person who had left her home in despair. She had learned resilience, resourcefulness, and the value of believing in herself. The lessons she was learning on the streets were shaping her into someone ready for bigger challenges and even greater successes. By the third week, Madison's hard work and persistence were starting to pay off in ways she had only dreamed of. The small projects she had taken on grew in scope as clients recommended her services to others. Her reputation for creativity, reliability, and dedication was spreading, and with it came bigger opportunities. One morning, she received an email from a major client, a startup looking for someone to manage a large digital campaign. Madison felt her heart skip a beat. This was the chance she had been working toward, the opportunity that could change her life entirely. She carefully read the proposal, then drafted a confident, professional response highlighting her ideas and experience. Over the next few days, Madison worked tirelessly to refine her pitch, preparing presentations, mock designs, and strategies. She spent long nights at the library and quiet corners in the city, fueled by determination and a belief in her abilities. The fear of failure never left entirely, but she used it to stay focused and sharp. Finally, the call came. Madison spoke to the client, a man named Ryan, who was impressed by her creativity and strategic thinking. They discussed her ideas, budgets, and timelines. Madison answered each question with confidence, drawing from every lesson she had learned over the past weeks. By the end of the conversation, Ryan smiled and said, "Madison, we want you on board. Let's make this happen." Her heart raced, and tears filled her eyes. This was the breakthrough she had been waiting for. The contract was finalized, and within days, Madison's earnings skyrocketed. The $25 million deal was real, a life-changing amount that validated her hard work, creativity, and resilience. She could hardly believe that the same person who had been kicked out just 3 weeks ago was now managing a project of this magnitude. Despite the excitement, Madison stayed grounded. She reflected on the journey, from the fear and loneliness of the streets to the confidence and skill that brought her here. She understood that this success wasn't just about money, it was about proving to herself that she could overcome obstacles, take risks, and thrive independently. That evening, Madison sat quietly in her favorite corner of the park, looking at the city lights. She allowed herself a moment of joy, pride, and reflection. The streets that had once seemed so intimidating had become the training ground for her breakthrough. Every challenge, every small victory, and every lesson had led her to this point. She whispered to herself, "I made it. I can face anything now." For the first time in weeks, Madison felt fully empowered, knowing that her courage, determination, and belief in herself had changed her life forever. After securing the $25 million deal, Madison felt a mix of triumph and reflection. She had changed so much in just 3 weeks, from a young woman uncertain of her path to someone capable of facing enormous challenges and emerging victorious. The streets that had once felt threatening had become the place where she discovered her strength, creativity, and independence. Madison decided to visit her parents, not to boast, but to share her journey and show them the person she had become. Paul and Linda were shocked to see her standing confidently at the door, a sense of pride and remorse flashing in their eyes. Madison spoke calmly about her experiences, the lessons she had learned, and the resilience she had discovered within herself. She told them how their harsh words and the challenge they had imposed forced her to dig deep, find her own way, and trust her abilities. While there was still tension from their previous misunderstandings, Madison felt a sense of closure. She had proven her independence, not just to them, but to herself. Madison realized that empowerment wasn't just about wealth or success. It was about believing in herself, making her own decisions, and navigating life with courage. She forgave her parents but also set clear boundaries, ensuring that her growth and self-respect were never compromised again. In the following days, Madison continued to expand her business and take on new projects. She nurtured relationships with supportive friends like Lily and Ethan, who had offered guidance and encouragement along the way. She also began mentoring others, sharing her story to inspire them to pursue their goals despite obstacles. Sitting in her new office space, overlooking the city lights, Madison felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had turned a moment of rejection into an opportunity that transformed her life. The experience on the streets, the small wins, and the ultimate breakthrough had given her more than financial success, they had given her confidence, resilience, and the knowledge that she could face any challenge that came her way. As Madison looked out at the horizon, she whispered to herself, "I am strong. I am capable. I can overcome anything." For the first time, she truly understood the power of self-belief, determination, and the courage to follow one's own path. The journey had been difficult, but it had made her unstoppable.